IVM.
There's a quick survey to fill out on ivmpodcast.com/survey. It lets us know a little bit more about who's listening to us. And you know what? We're going to do a few prizes. So, we'll do a random drawing of maybe 10 people and we'll send you all some swag. Remember, that's ivmpodcast.com/survey where you can fill out the survey.
Hello and welcome to the Habit Coach Podcast, the bite-sized podcast filled with quick and easy actionable habits. Remember, great habits create that awesome life. I am Ashdin Doctor, your habit coach. And today's fun fact of the day has to do with churches. Did you know that the confessional booth in churches was first designed actually fairly recently in 1576? Now, fairly recently is obviously a relative term. It was invented by Cardinal Charles Borromeo. Another fun fact you did not know is that Borromeo became an abbot at the age of 12, mainly because his uncle was Pope Pius IV. But the idea of creating these boxes was to create a barrier between the confessor and the priest. Now, putting all political reasons and the darker history of confession boxes aside, the idea of confession itself is a very interesting one. It is a very beneficial thing for a confessor because one of the most important words and one of the worst words that exist is guilt. And guilt is one of the most toxic emotions known to mankind. Guilt is like a worm that eats you from the inside. Most of us hold on to this guilt and it finishes us. Hence, the confession box process helps us to create a habit of getting rid of this guilt by asking God to forgive us. This is because forgiveness and guilt go hand in hand. However, how do we as mortal humans forgive others? And should we forgive others? So this podcast was inspired by a conversation I had with my friend Kubra. We had just finished meditating together, and one of the steps in the meditation was to forgive everyone in our life. Anyone who had ever wronged us, we seek to forgive them. So Kubra said that she finds it very presumptuous to be able to forgive others. I am not God, so how can I forgive? And that got me thinking. We clearly need to forgive others because just like guilt, not forgiving is also very toxic. It's like holding on to a red hot piece of metal. It's burning your hand, but you can't let go. The tighter you hold it, the more it will burn. Now, if you ever think that forgiveness is not important, look at all the Hindi movies where the hero plots revenge on the bad guy. And in the end, everybody loses. The hero wears a white shirt in the last scene of the movie. He gets his revenge, gets shot, and bleeds all over his beautiful white shirt and dies. Now, pro tip right there, when seeking revenge, don't wear white shirts. But coming back to forgiveness is not about being the bigger person or being the person who magnanimously moves forward. No, forgiveness is never about the other person. Forgiveness is something you do to yourself. No matter what the other person has done to you, and humans are cruel and evil and do horrible, horrible things. But no matter how bad it is, you need to learn to forgive for your own mental peace. And we forgive by removing the judgment that we placed on that person. As soon as we have judged someone, we have created a tainted image of that person in our mind. As soon as we judge their behavior, we have taken the position of false superiority. And it is this position of false superiority that Kubra was referring to. Hence, we normally outsource forgiveness and judgment to God and karma. This is because karma is a great way of not dealing with forgiving the person, as you believe the same thing will happen to that person as well. Instead, there is something that we can do in our normal mortal lives without relying on the supernatural. And we should learn to destroy these judgments that we've created for people around us. Learn to question these images and judgments, and then learn how to not judge at all. And we do this by asking 3 questions. Do I know the full story and the truth here before judging? Second question. Do I know about the person's past that led them to do this? And the third question, did I learn something from this experience? Let me repeat these. The first one is, do I know the full story and the truth here before I judged? Or did I just judge? The second is, do I know about the person's past that led them to do this? And the third, did I learn something from this experience? When you ask yourself these questions, you will soon realize that you do not know the full story and all the facts. If you don't know the story, it means that you cannot pass judgment on half facts. Hence, as uncomfortable, as disturbing as this might sound, you need to learn to stop passing judgment and in the process, forgive others for their actions. Does this mean that you will forget what happened? No. Or go back to normal? No. And it should not. This is why the third question is there. What did you learn from this? You have to learn something, or else what is the point of what has just happened? You have to come out wiser from this situation. So your not so simple habit to learn forgiveness starts by asking yourself 3 questions. Do I know the full story and truth here before I judge? Do I know what the person's past was like that led them to do this? And the third question, did I learn something from this experience? Remember, not forgiving is a very toxic thing, and we must let go of these emotions. There is no point in revenge or holding a grudge. And don't forget the pro tip about the white shirt. Don't wear a white shirt in the end of movies or seeking revenge. Usually in a podcast, it's me who speaks to you and you who listens. But I've been seeing your comments and it's time. It's me listening to you. Following the overwhelming success of this podcast, the good folks at IVM Podcast Network have decided to come up with a Kannada adaptation of the show. For those who prefer listening to it in that language, do make sure you let your Kannada speaking friends know about this as well. Now, if you like this podcast, don't forget to check out other interesting podcasts on the IVM network. You can listen to us on the IVM Podcast app or ivmpodcast.com. You can also follow us on social media. We are at IVM Podcast on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to reach out to me, I am at Ashdin Doc on Twitter and Instagram. We have a brand new habit coaching online course, quizzes, videos, and a lot more on the website awesome180.com. So check it out now.
Hey everybody, it's been another great week on the IVM Podcast Network. On an episode of Cock and Bull, Cyrus talks to Kajal Srinivasan and Sriram Padmanabhan about parking issues at Azad Maidan and sexism in stand-up comedy. Do check out the poem Samvad on Hansvani. The poem looks at the power of words and pathos born in the absence of them. On IVM Likes, Antriksh and Zalak talk to fellow IVM staffers about some crazy house parties and office parties they've attended, and draw parallels between house parties in movies versus those in real life. On Pulyabazi, the hosts help us understand how India's public finance works. Join Abhinav on Probation Se Promotion Tak as he tells you how being multilingual in today's globally connected world could be one of the biggest career skills a person could have. Do follow us on social media. We're IVM Podcast on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And remember, if you enjoyed this show or any of our shows for that matter, please do tell a friend. Word of mouth really does help us. And also, please, a rating if you could. That is also extremely helpful to us. And remember, we're also on YouTube. You can check out ivmpodcast.com/YouTube to get a list of the different channels that we operate on YouTube. And finally, we'd like to thank our sponsors this week, SBI Life Insurance, Bank of Baroda, India Water Portal, and Max Life Insurance. Thank you so much for making this possible.
Don't you think that if everyone around you is getting smart, you better be smarter? Hey there, I'm the traveling professor Siddharth Deshmukh and I'm back with season 2 of my podcast to make you smarter. Smarter with Sid. What's this season's focus about? Well, it's about 10-minute nuggets that will make you stand out at work. It's time to go from smart to smarter. Tune in every Tuesday and Thursday and become smarter with Sid.